Looking at what we did from the last video, there's a few things we want to tidy up before we move forward. First of all, I'm using these individual pieces here, and I would rather use these as prefabs. So I'm going to have to convert these to prefabs. So I'm going to go into my sprites, and I believe that would be, yeah, so we have it in the background. I'm going to go to these prefabs, and right here I have this platform. And this probably shouldn't be necessarily in the background layer. Let's see. Yeah, we do have it in the background. Okay, so this is fine. We'll just put the prefabs there. And so really what I want is, I don't want these things as separate items. I want these two to be the same thing. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to highlight all of these so I can make sure that I'm selecting the proper thing. So I'm going to go in here and I'm going to right click and I'm going to create an empty object, and I'm going to call that ground A. So I'm going to select those items again and I'm going to drag them inside of ground A. Oh, I see, that went inside of number one, so I need to drag that out. I don't want it at. So I'm going to drag it all the way at the bottom and then drag one inside of that. So that was a little mistake that I just made. So when I select this now, ground one is this whole object here. Now I'm just going to drag ground one into here to create a prefab. And then I can remove this one. Once I remove that, I can drag the prefab up here. All right, so these two waters are here. Instead of me creating an empty, I'm going to take this water right here and I'm going to change the name to water. And then I'm going to take this one here and drag it in there. So now I have this prefab here that consists of both those images, and then I can drag it in there. So the top layer is a water and the bottom layer is a water. So that's another way you can kind of group things if you want. So this looks a lot better. I'm going to want to do the same thing with the animation that we created earlier. So I'm going to go here to the sprites, I'm going to go here to the player, go here to the night. And here's my animations, but really I want an animations prefabs here. So although I have these animations here, I can't really just drag these up there and create have my animations continuously play. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a folder inside of my night. Inside my animation, sorry. I'm going to right click on this. And for these here, I'm going to delete these animations and redo them. So I'm going to go back into my night and I'm going to take this attack layer here. So I'm going to take all these attacks. I'm going to drag it up here. And then I'm going to double click on my layers folder. And then I'm going to type attack. Attack animation. And click save. Now that I have that, as you can see here, inside of my animations, I have this attack animation. And then I have this up here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this one right here and I'm going to rename that, and then I'm going to drag it right down in there, and now I have a prefab that I can use all the time for the attack. I want to go ahead and put this into a prefabs folder inside of my animation. So I'm going to right click here and create a folder, prefab, and then I'm just going to put that in there. Now here with my animation, I really want to rename this from 5 to that. I want to go ahead and put this inside of an attack folder. So I'm going to right click on this, create folder, attack. So I'm going to take these two and put them in there. Now what I could have done was, and I can still do this, I can go inside the attack and have every folder have its own prefab folder, or within my animation I can just have all the animation here in one prefab. But sometimes it all depends on you, how you think you're going to be using this. I think if I give everything a prefabs folder, we know exactly what we're looking for. So whenever I have like a run, the run will have its own prefab folder, or a jump, so on and so forth. So I'm always looking in the one folder to get the prefabs, as opposed to a major prefab folder where all the animation is. I want to do that on all the animation here. So I just got finished doing the attack. I want to go ahead and do the dead. And I want to show you how this works. So, okay. So right now I have this attack prefabs here. If I were to run the game, you can see him attacking, right? So I can resize this and move it around. And because it's a prefab, if I needed another one, I just go to my attack, prefab, and add it here. Now, what you'll notice is that this prefab is huge. So I want it a little bit smaller when I drag it in. I don't want to have to keep readjusting it every time. So the way to do that is select the prefab that you just adjusted and go over here and hit apply. And it'll be applied like we did before with these platforms to all the other prefabs in the game. So now every time I drag one of those prefabs in, it's in the right position. Now all I need to do is do that to all the other animations. So let's do one more animation. So I'm going to go here to my animations, my knights, and let's do an idle. So I'm going to select the idle from there all the way to here. And then again, I can drag that up here. It's going to ask me for the animation. I'm going to go to the animation and I'm going to create a folder. And this is going to be called idle. I'm going to double click in there, and this is going to be called idle animation. So now I have my idle animation. I'm going to rename it here. I'm going to go into my animations folder, into my idle animation folder, and I'm going to create my prefabs folder. Inside that prefabs folder, I'm going to drag this animation in here. Although I'd rather resize this to the same size as this one here. So really, let me give this a standard size here. So I'm going to say 4.1. This is going to be the position. So I'm just making sure the position is on the platform. And now I'm going to give it a scale. So I'm going to say this will be 2.2. 0.2 and 0.2. So all of them will be this same scale. So with that in mind, all I need to do is I want to copy this. So I'm going to left click on this little icon here, this cog, and I'm going to hit copy component. And then I'm going to select my idle, and then I'm going to hit paste component values. And now it's in the exact same place as the first guy. And all I need to do here is move them over. And then once I do all that with the idle, I'm going to go ahead and then create a prefab of this by dragging it into the prefabs folder. Once I do that, you'll see it turn blue here. Tells me it's a prefab. And then here, when I select it, I can see now I have this apply button. So whenever I fix anything on this, I can apply it to the other prefabs. So that means I can drag another idle here, and it'll all have the same properties and motions. So we need to do that with all our animations that we're going to use, and probably make sure you clean up all of this stuff here, and maybe you don't need this attack 1 there or this idle 1 here. But actually, because we have 2 of them here, that's why it's doing that. So I'm going to just take these other ones out. So now I have an idle and an attack by themselves. I notice here I have a platform 1 and a platform 2. I can put these into one group called platforms. So I'm going to right click and create a folder or an empty. And I should not put that inside of the platform. So I'm going to select my main one here. I'm going to right click and then create an empty that way so it's outside of all that. I'm going to call this platforms. And I'm going to just drag all my platforms in there. Do the same thing with the ground. There we go. Perfect. So really this wouldn't be called idle, right? So we would have a thing called player, but we're going to be focusing on that in a little bit. But for right now, we're doing really good with this. So in the next video, I think what we need to now start doing is creating our start screen and then moving things over to where when the person hits play button, they move over to the start, to the next screen or to the next level. And I'll see you guys next time.